Hello. It's another day, another stream in fascist America. Getting started a little bit later. I had to take care of some things, but welcome! Welcome to whatever this is. An attempt at providing education, advocacy, and a little common sense in this digital wasteland. My name's Aubri Devashrayee. Today, we will continue talking about revolutionaries, catch up on a couple of current events. Particularly, we will be talking about Indigenous resistance and revolutionaries, more specifically, the history of Geronimo, and also going over the history of the French Revolution. We will tie these two things in together, talk about their similarities, and then apply them to the Scarlet Pimpernel, the book we're reading. Juniper! Oh, she brought her toy. It's this. It's a little ball with a tail on it. Normally she likes to chase it from farther away. Yeah. Are you gonna bring it? We don't think she's full Russian blue, the breed, that she's maybe part Russian blue, but the breed is known to like to play fetch. There she is. Are you ready for the stream? Okay. I am wanting to make some custom emotes for subscribers, and I'm thinking about making some cat ones of Juniper and Kit, the two feline friends extraordinaire in this household. Hi, bug. Okay. So normally I start off with a funny video. Just since I'm getting started a little bit later, there was a video that I saw from the Majority Report where they are interviewing Tim Onion of the Onion outlet, that satire. She's playing with something outside. So I'm guessing it will be humorous, somewhat, hopefully, but I'm also interested in what they have to say, because apparently they acquired InfoWars from Alex Jones. I don't know if I'm being pranked and this is a satire headline, but I want to investigate. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
We are back. Sam Cedar, Emma Vigland. We have somebody who called in. I don't totally recognize him, but it's...
Hey, you son of a bitch, you left me high and dry. I got the email, Sam. I told you that I would call in, be an exclusive get.
That's his Alex Jones impression. Complete with having more blood rushing to the face. I think that just naturally happens in trying to speak like Alex Jones. It's quite painful. It's an excruciating bodily experience.
For you, and you blew it. You blew me off like I'm some kind of dirt.
We had a little communication. Now it's Tim, did you shave your head for this new character you're playing?
No. I'm going through some treatments.
Some treatments.
So, can I drop the bit, or should I keep going?
Sure, I'll do my. We could do dueling Alex Joneses if you want. So we should say there's some news. You have some news that you've now taken over some type of like travel site.
Yeah,
I watched part of like a video that you put out, and you said you were starting a travel site.
I might be starting a travel site. We're looking at all the options. We basically inherited InfoWars, which was a political news site. I'm not if you're familiar with. They cover the news.
So wait a second. So you inherited. So just back up for a minute. Like I knew that the Onion had gotten had gone in and did some type of like auction or application. Was all this all an application process? Did you apply for this job?
No, they reached out to me for my 2 cents about if they caught the car, that what should they do with it? And we just kept talking about it. And I thought that the joke of if the Onion took over InfoWars, it would be funny for about 3 months, and then it would just be over, So we said, well, then what happens after?
Did InfoWars like they actually did? Yeah.
Yeah, it did like a Colbert Report style spoof of it. There's just only so much runway you got with that kind of humor. And so I said, well, let's just turn it into
I've
like
seen that with your own show. I mean, I feel like that you learned that from doing your.
Yeah, I don't want to make that same mistake twice or three times or
You're
four
very
times.
smart.
Yeah.
Dragging him.
So yeah, I know we're just gonna like turn into one of these comedy streaming sites that keep failing, but we keep trying to provide a space for funny people to make stuff and give them money, which feels like a really funny overall joke at the end of the day. If like, InfoWars is the premier source for trans comedy. Trans people making comedy, not making fun of trans people. That's the Dave Chappelle network.
Yeah.
Let's. I mean, this is all
True.
well and good, but I feel like on some level
Ricky
we should
Gervais
have
as well.
some balance in this.
So
I mean,
many
you're coming on
comedians.
here all
Sell out to
happy
Bald.
and
hunch down
bald and
because
shaved
they're
your
not
head in and
creative.
support. I mean, was that part of this message, or is that just like you're going for a new look?
If you're familiar with a program I do called On Cinema, which your audience is, but you're too old to spend time watching comedy anymore.
I mean, I've heard people mention it. It's a relatively new program, isn't it?
Not quite, but my character on the show
Hello,
lost all his
Linton.
hair and has been wearing a
Welcome.
wig for about a year. And so
How's
for
your
our
day
Oscar
going so
special,
far?
the wig was ripped off, and I wanted my bald head to be on TV instead of a bald cap. So I shaved my head, but it timed out perfectly because now I look like that guy.
Well, let's let that guy have his say in this.
That
too.
guy
Matt,
meaning
can you
Alex
cue this up
Jones?
for us because it's only fair.
I guess the Onion, the
he has already
satire
responded to this
outlet,
utter
Oh, he's all
faux
over it.
media,
and,
news outlet.
Here he is. I mean,
They're
so
thinking about
what is the
acquiring
state of
InfoWars
right
from Alex
now?
Jones.
Does he still have access to it all?
I don't really know. I am not the law about I'm not the guy to ask. I think there's a judge that's going to weigh in on this in the next couple of days, and they seem to be on our side of the issue. So there's one final little hurdle, but yeah, you can let's listen to the gentleman
Not
from
great,
Texas
but we're at the good part
set
of
it
the
up
day
here.
now.
If you
Oh,
want.
I'm sorry
Tubular
that
body.
you're not doing
Let's
great,
hear from him and
but
let
also
him
Yeah.
respond.
glad that you
tubular
are finally
body.
to a place that's a
I
little
can't
better.
unsee this.
Hopefully,
You can't take something over and
Hopefully
then act
that
like
will
you're somebody
continue.
and you say it's a parody. You can do a parody of somebody, but none of you took something from them.
Right.
What?
Lawyers, so they're in deep shit. I'm already suing the.
is this real? Is this real? The thing with InfoWars and Alex Jones, I don't know. I'm clearly have not been a frequent audience member, watcher of the programming, but this has to be. Is this AI? Oh God, I don't even know anymore. Low IQ hat.
Democrat Party law firms, or you got civil rights lawsuits. You think, look, just because you're wearing my shirt, don't mean you're me. So let's be
College
100%
crunch
clear
mode
about that.
inconveniences.
And so you
Yeah,
gotta
that's
just keep
that would
laughing.
do it.
Just like you did a year and a half ago, or it was November
I
2024.
hope you're hanging in
Is that
there.
about a year and a half?
Make sure
yeah,
you're
this is sort of
taking
chronological.
care of
Do we know
yourself.
who it is he's talking to? Why is he
Easy to
Why
let
is he like sort of like
those little things
embodying
slip.
all of the people who have oppressed him in this guy who's sitting there?
What are
next
you
to him?
studying,
Isn't
if
that
you don't mind
like an
me asking?
employee?
This is how I would be if I was that guy. I'd be like, I'd be like, geez.
Yeah.
So it sounds like
Yeah.
that was real.
Let's keep
What's
going.
with
Let's
these
have another
right-wingers?
day. I mean, I just like when we come back.
We really
Tim
are
better
in a
have disrobed, or it's
post-irony
not
world.
Can I just say something?
It's
I
wild.
taped an interview with the CNN, which I know you guys are always on CNN, but I did a little taping here with Oscar Jimenez. Is that who it is? The dark bearded man, and I did it shirtless.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
And
so
I
you go shirtless with the-
full Alex Jones rage mode with him the whole time, and I hope they put it up. It seemed like it was pretty funny. So, I just love wearing his skin. I love wearing the man's skin. What can I say? I'm like Leatherface.
You're wearing
Ew.
a full bodysuit.
Emma's face as he said
What I
that.
do is
Yeah,
what I do is
I
cut,
agree.
Cut up the backbone with my fillet knife and peel the skin back and slip in.
It's a good impression,
Let's listen
but
to,
it's
Alex
painful.
Jones a little bit more. He seems
Painful
upset.
sounding.
Yeah, this is a story from December 10th. Sale
The
of
college
Alex
told
Jones
us we
Infowars,
had
The Onion
access to certain
rejected. And
software.
I'll
Imagine
get
my
into this.
surprise when I tried to
Yeah,
open the files. I sent
but
myself
yeah.
in the version they had.
Yes.
Oh,
To confuse people.
yeah,
By the way, it's a
that's-
total failure. It goes, we're the fifth biggest
that's
newspapers.
annoying.
That's
And
a
you're like, this
lie.
is your
These
job.
papers are all
This is your
dead.
business.
They seem to have
looked it up.
lit
The Onion
Comic
only
and
his
concept.
nipples. You can't see his face.
Yeah.
You only see his chest. It's interesting.
Did he wander in like on a live
I've been taking
broadcast
a
without his
shower.
shirt
I
on?
was taking a shower and I just heard the news and I came out.
What is it
shower
with all
with
of
my
these
jeans
like
on.
right-wing
Oh, that's right. It's like a
mode.
Bobby Kennedy
weirdos
thing.
that are like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have
right,
to go
see what's going
shirtless.
on.
This
He's
is what
swimming with
the
Kid Rock.
audience is clamoring for. No, bitch. None of us were asking for
By the
that.
way, it's a total failure.
Now we
So
have
we're
to
the
go
fifth biggest newspapers.
bleach
That's a
our
lie.
eyeballs.
Newspapers are all dead. Okay.
I looked it up. The Onion gets less than half of the traffic that Infowars gets.
Remember, they
Okay.
said they were going to be.
So what?
Going
So
back
what?
to your
That was-
college
that was
thing, it's like,
yesterday.
don't we pay enough? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not
So
in college
what?
anymore, but
I
like,
can't. I love
don't
the time
students
they're killing.
pay
They're
enough
just killing
to
time.
have this
what a
shit be
fun,
figured
If you
out?
guys just
You know?
produce something of absolute no substance every day and just ranted about your breakfast every day, it would be similar to this.
Oh, were you
Infowars
saying
show.
comic and
They just-
concept
who's
art is
watching
what
this?
you
Do you
are
think he's got
studying?
an audience anymore? Is everyone just kind of like us watching?
Or
I
you're
think-
calling
I think it's
the
it's
Alex
exceedingly
Jones
I mean,
stuff
this is
comic
the
and
huge value
Sorry.
of a show like his. It's
looks like a
always
rotisserie
been
fresh
people
chicken. Yeah.
sort of who
The
didn't
coloring is
necessarily buy
alarming.
into what
Like
he was saying that
how
was watching.
how much
I
time
think
does
it
he
was
spend
all,
in
like, it's the
tanning
spectacle.
beds in
Even
addition
since,
to
even from when
getting
he was
spray
just on
tans?
radio, that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was the
Oh,
spectacle.
he's a terrific entertainer, you know, like anybody that can just go and go and go like that is very entertaining, especially when he's like S-faced on other people's shows. That stuff with him and Tim Pool, that's
We
gold.
saw that. That was
Space,
amazing.
meaning shit
That was
face. He's
incredibly
drunk.
impressive.
Yeah,
So,
he's
but
drunk
what are you
very
going to do? Are you
frequently
going to,
on his
like,
guest appearances.
Send like a coupon
Alex Jones.
code to his info
Oh, I study
war
comic and
users? Are
concept
you
art.
going to?
That's
We'd
very
love
cool.
to maintain. We'd
I
love to
love
maintain
that.
their audience and just welcome them aboard. And well, I mean, the main driver here, I'll just be pitch man
And
for the
cool
Onion.
that there are
By the way, like the
colleges
Onion,
even
I don't know. I mean, I
offering
grew
that.
up pretty much with the Onion. It's like the most
Alex
one of the
Jones
most
does kind of
legendary
look like this
comedy,
body horror project they showed
institutions of
us
all
earlier.
time. And I'm just
Hang
like,
on,
I'm
if you
here at
have
their
any
offices,
pictures
actually, that's what I'm.
or
That's
links,
where I am in
do
Chicago.
share.
Whoa. Okay.
I'm like working for the Onion now, Sam. Like I don't know, it's kind of neat.
What do they have you
What
doing?
is
Like,
it with
like
all of
office
these
stuff or?
right-wing
Well, it's
people
funny.
as well,
Have you
having
ever-
like the
when was
most
last time you had, like, a
unusual
job where you're, like,
sounding
in an office
voices?
with, like, you know,
That is a
meetings and
constant
stuff?
theme.
I mean, I guess you have meetings.
20
Yeah.
years ago, I would say.
Yeah.
Air America, maybe. I mean, we
Yeah,
have meetings
now-
in our
Tim
office.
Heidecker.
Yeah.
Like company-wide meetings and got to meet with
Yeah.
HR and all that
Oh,
stuff.
that's Tim
here.
Heidecker. You're right.
It's like that. I mean, it's like a big. It's like
They're
a
calling
big,
him Tim
concern. You
Onion.
know, it's a big.
I just
operation
noticed
here.
that at
And
the
I'm
bottom. Does he
just
own
trying
the
to be
Onion then?
The Rick Rubin
Wow.
of the situation.
I'm
You're
just
floating in. Here's I have
catching
an
up
idea for
to
a
things.
weird movie.
Hello,
Yeah.
Stuart Little
Are
is
you
my
planning on
son.
selling any like health
Welcome.
tonics or any kind
How are
of
you doing?
like,
Yes.
testosterone boosting products?
Well, we've got capsulized oxygen that we're going to be selling. Pure O.
Capsulized oxygen.
I don't know. We actually do have a bunch of those ideas in the pipeline.
Can't
that
believe
we're
I
gonna
didn't
be
recognize
rolling out.
him.
So, like I said, first 3 months, I think we're going to get all of this out of our system, all the jokes that we're all that we all love to make about this guy and his world. And then, you know, start giving money to people we think are funny. And I don't know, see what happens, Sam. It's the whole thing's ridiculous, isn't it? And who knows? But you should subscribe to the Onion. That's what I wanted to say, because that's what
Does
they
he
really
own
want
the
everybody
Onion
to do,
then?
to support this, because the money will start going to the Sandy Hook families. And this is what it's all about, really. Not to be too sentimental here, but this is like justice for those
Onion.
families who are still trying to get a dollar from this guy after all these years. And this is a road to getting that. This is the way it seems to be going.
Okay. I'm not sure, but I think they like took ivermectin. They took over. Yeah. No, you're right. I think so. Cue the Lorax music. Yeah, exactly. What is that one song in like the animated Lorax one where they're like, let it die, let it die. Anyway, that show feels like a fever dream. The Onion's multi-year pursuit of the InfoWars brand, it's been a multi-year pursuit? News to me. Is closer than ever to materializing. The satirical news publication announced on Tuesday that it has reached a new deal to take over the infamous right-wing conspiracy site founded by Alex Jones. And if there were any doubts that the website is landing in hilarious hands, they should be erased by the news that Tim Heidecker will serve as the new creative director of InfoWars. Okay, so was he already connected to the Onion then? I'm taking the helm of this classic American institution and want to know what you fine folks would like to see from us. The previous owners took ivermectin. Yeah. The autocorrect was like, I'm predicting what you will be talking about. I am reading the room. Thank you very much. Wow. I mean, they have to. It's such a good bit and bid. The Onion submitted a bid that was selected by the families and trustees over a rival bid associated with Jones, but a judge overturned the purchase attempt on the grounds that it was not a transparent attempt to sell the company to the highest bidder. Wow, this is storied. They've been through the legal process. Jesus. Meticulously parody the Joe Rogan Experience. Okay. Wow. Okay, back to this. Why did it go back so far? Excuse me. I'm just gonna refresh this.
We are back.
Hopefully
Sam Cedar,
that
Emma
works.
Vigeland.
We were like here.
We've got capsulized oxygen that we're going to be selling.
Oh, we got past.
Apparently very, very thrilled about the whole thing. At least until we start making stuff that stinks, and then they get very upset about it. But
they had heard that you were gonna get this job. I mean, they
seem like friends that you know. Sam has a history in comedy. That they probably know each other from New York comedy.
And I do want to say, talking to Ben and some of the leadership here, that we're coming for you guys next. Majority Report is next on the acquisitions on the acquisitions table. We're coming for you.
Can I retain my position, please?
Yeah, for sure, you, Emma, and then other people we're gonna be rethinking.
We're gonna do it on a case by case basis.
Yeah.
I mean,
Matt's gonna
come in
sell
and
his
see
stock.
me.
I really want to know like how much time Alex Jones has with this, because he's gonna just get more and more insane.
I know.
Over the next couple of days as an attempt to, like, I would imagine, like, is he
interview that just
gonna
came
set
out?
up?
No.
I mean, maybe this
Do you have a link to
you wouldn't
that?
know this, but
I'm
I
also
wonder
gonna
if
be
he can set up
looking it up.
another entity. It doesn't seem
I'm
like
sure.
he can.
I don't with what money.
That's what
I
you're
don't know.
referring to,
Like, I
right?
don't know
The
what's going
Gaza
on there.
Humanitarian
At
Foundation.
some
have a
point, don't you,
shirt.
That
like yeah,
falsely
at some point, don't you just
named
literally run out of like credit and stuff? Like, don't
disgusting
you just literally dry up?
entity that's
But the
continuing
real
genocide.
heartbreaker for him is going to be when he finds out next week we're working with Roger Stone, and Roger
Whistleblower.
Stone is going to be a big part of the future of Infowars.
Oh, why did he have a fallout with Roger
No,
Stone?
I don't know. He always used to have Roger Stone on. I think they're best buddies, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. It's weird that Roger Stone is still alive, isn't it? Like there's some of these guys that you just seem to go on forever.
Yeah, there's
Roger
many
Stone.
more orgies for him to attend in Florida. So there's
Whoa.
always the next orgy to
Okay.
live for.
Keeps you
We'll
young,
watch
I
this.
guess.
I guess.
Thank you for sharing this.
I don't know, Sam, Emma. It's quite a
Ex-Marine
journey, and
exposes Israeli
I wish you hope us the
killings
best.
at Gaza
Yeah,
aid
whatever.
sites.
We're working. We
Yeah,
we need
this
to have a
is
couple
honestly
meetings
what it
about
takes.
first,
Whistleblowers,
before
people
we,
exposing it
issue
because we
a,
can't
like an
trust these
official,
institutions and
endorsement?
so-called
endorsement or
leaders
just
to do the right thing.
It could cut a bunch of different ways. But
Yeah.
now, what about your existing show? Is
He's way too kind to the
It's
GHF
office hours
itself.
live.
Yeah, I wouldn't
That's
what
really
you're
expect anything
grasping
less
for.
from a Marine,
office
to be
hours?
honest.
Is that are you going to still do it?
But has some good
Yeah,
insight into the
yeah,
IDF's activities.
I have to. I've got.
Yeah,
we've
that's
got
good to know.
Mouths to feed on that
Honestly,
show.
this is
You know,
how
Vic
we will
Berger
hold
is
people
not-
accountable,
is
is like
not,
getting
in the best
evidence
shape.
from
We
Right.
need to keep
whistleblowers,
him going,
not
and
from
give him something to wake up
these
for
institutions.
every morning.
So you feel obligated to Vic?
Yeah, sort of like the way Jerry Garcia felt about the Grateful Dead towards the end there. You know, just like I got all these people working for me, and I got to just keep
Yeah,
keep
thank
the
you for
train
sharing
going
that.
to keep everybody working. But my heart's not in it, of course, as yours isn't.
I mean, I think people can see that, and I think it's. But I do think people admire you for continuing on. For the
Yeah.
sake of the
It's a
people. that-
legacy.
Big of you.
It's a legacy project at this point. You know, it's just it's all fan service.
Yeah, no,
But,
of course, of course.
Just going through the motions.
That's great. That is great.
We're not live. We're not live, are we?
Maybe it was the lighting, how his face looks
We
so
don't even if we
flushed.
were, it really wouldn't make that much of a difference. We don't have
No.
many
Yeah,
in the
I
audience
didn't
that do.
recognize him.
Oh. All right. Well, I got to go into this
All right.
big corporate meeting where they talk. We're going to go through like an actual PowerPoint presentation and
gosh.
slides, and yeah, it's a real thing.
Thanks
That
for giving us
sounds
the big exclusive. Oh,
Yeah.
right. This was a
All right.
breaking news story that we broke here.
No, not really,
music.
but sort of.
I mean,
in a
sort
little
of.
bit.
Thanks
a
for
little
giving us the
bit.
We sort of
exclusive.
broke it. Was this
I
the
love you
first time
guys.
you had seen it?
He's trying to hang up,
Jones
Sam.
and
He's trying to
Fine.
hang up.
Fine.
I just said I love you
Pray I
guys,
don't
and
have
I
a
do
bright
too.
red
Yeah.
older
Love you
man.
too.
Very
White
high.
man.
They got you. Hey, folks, don't
I
forget to
think
hit the
especially if you are a descendant of the UK, that tends to be a thing. And if you have a history of alcohol consumption, extreme alcohol consumption, even, that tends to be a factor. Okay, let's take a look at this. Just so we can get to everything, I'm gonna play it at a higher speed. Yeah, I am interested in the comments
A
too.
red light. Green light. And that's why people compare it to the Squid Games. Green light. It's sick. It really is sick how it's been done. I've been to numerous war zones all over. I've never seen anything in my life. Never in my life have I ever seen anything like this. A young lad has been standing in the berm, messing around, 12 years old. It's insane what was going on. It was straight up war crime, it's straight up murder.
This PF
Everything that
and
was done
weed
was by the IDF.
over alcohol might save me. Honestly, though, yeah, sun damage. I forgot that. Thank you.
Genocide. Today, we are joined by someone who witnessed some of these killings firsthand, Dave McIntosh, who was a site manager for a security firm contracted
Can
by
you
the
hear
Gaza
this
Humanitarian
okay?
Foundation.
It's a
Dave,
little bit
thanks for joining
quieter
us
than
today
the
at
other
Classified.
video on
No,
my
thank
end.
you. It's
Just
a
want to
pleasure.
make
It's a
sure.
pleasure to be able to shed some light on what's happened over there and also give some clarity to maybe families affected.
Genocide in
Dave, you were
4K,
in the British
shame on
Army, you were a
humanity,
Special
yeah.
Forces operative.
Royal Marines Commando for 7 years.
How did you find yourself in
Yep.
Gaza?
Good question. So after October 7th,
Calling
and
them
the
terrorists is an
ongoing
insult to
war
terrorists.
crimes ensued, we all seen what happened.
Okay,
I
cool.
won't beat
Thank
around the
you.
bush, the genocide. So I felt compelled, not just as a former soldier, but as a human, to get out there and help. So since October the 7th, I wanted to get on the ground. I mean, about a year ago now, my friend came to me and said, "Oh, McIntosh, you're still looking to go to Gaza?" I said, "Hell yeah." Hell yeah, definitely. I didn't know what
I
role
view the
comes in all the
military,
laws.
they're
Yes,
just
and
kind of
if there is
glorified
malpractice
cops,
going on. There's malpractice from GHF. I'll report it.
glorified
I'll
pigs,
expose it.
if you will, glorified pork.
Okay, we're going to look at some of your footage.
Declassified has
This one
done
taken
some
from the site.
amazing
This is from Site
reporting
4,
in
yeah.
the past
So
couple of years. I
this
agree.
is Site 4, Northern Gaza, the only GHF site for the whole of Northern Gaza, which is the most populated part of Gaza, just above the Nazarene corridor.
Yeah, especially
What
with
we're seeing
all
here,
of
that's a bank
these
of Israeli soldiers
mainstream
separated by barbed
corporate
wire.
So,
media
so
outlets
this
all
is a
over the
daily
world
occurrence on distros.
that are
So every time there's a
complicit in
distribution,
this
they sit there
genocide.
with unlimited amounts of ammunition because they'll pose up there from about 4 a.m. till the end of distro, which is about after 12, and they will just sit there and take pot shots and just keep shooting. You'll have sniper fire, you'll have machine gun, you'll have tank rounds, you'll also have drones going overhead if they see someone at risk. There's no threat. They've got no weapons. We can see this. You don't need optics to tell you what's going on. I can only explain it such as it's like a field day for them.
This is what happens
These are
when
people that have been starved
they are
for 2
receiving
years now.
endless
They're
amounts of
desperate and
funding.
they're getting shot at.
They don't
Keyword there,
have to
Alex, the keyword is
pay
desperate.
for
Now I'm thinking,
housing
first and
or
foremost,
health
why would you
care.
come out the rubble to
Many
lie
people
there
don't
and know you're
work,
gonna get shot at by the
that
IDF?
they're
Why
just
would you do it?
bored
I'm not in their
and
mindset. I'm not in their
genocidal
face. I'm not
and
starvation over there. It's unthinkable.
completely
It's unthinkable. The escalation they
brainwashed
must have
and
want to get ahead. It's
bloodthirsty.
crazy.
It's
The
just
IDF know this.
evil.
The IDF know this. So when people say it's a death trap,
The
I'm like,
Zionists, that
no,
is.
I guess it is.
We might not know about the RAF
Okay, let's move
spy
on
flags
to
without them.
the aid and the aid
True,
distribution, how it worked
yeah.
out.
In the video there, I said you will always hear
That's a
gunfire.
good point.
Now, once again, if I repeat myself, I've been to Afghanistan, been Libya, been everywhere. I've been in active war zones. I've never heard as much gunfire and ordnance being dropped as I've seen over there. It's non-stop.
So this is you waiting ahead of the distribution.
Yeah, so I'm setting all the distro up, getting it all set up, making sure it's all there. And
It's
then we say, "Hey, we're
wild
ready,
how
ready," and then
the
we-
majority
it's
of the
the green
world
light,
can
the
see
infamous
what's
green light.
happening. Us everyday people who still
Green light.
value human
You hear on the
life,
radio, green
have a
light.
sense of morality, and
People aren't just
that
looking
this
for
is
Sprinting.
continuing.
No, you only got an hour. That's why it's no dawdling to the side. It's you either get there and you get that aid.
And it's
get
leading
out,
to
no time wait around. You have the green
worldwide
light and you have the red line, and that's why people compare it to the Squid Game. It's that thing that makes sense
worldwide
because
rise in
literally it's a living
anti-Semitism
reality
because of
that.
the Israeli
They
government
created that
conflating
through the time
Zionism and
how it's set things up
Judaism.
with the green and red light. It's sick. It really is sick. And how it's been
What
done.
flag is that bracelet? This is the Belgian flag. There's a
And you
subscriber
can hear the
that
shots still going off. in
requested
one.
this,
Yep. So what we do
and
is if anyone steps out of
I'm
what they
starting
believe
a
is a safe
thing
zone,
where
where the people are running everywhere, they'll
I'm
fire. Whether they'll fire at them, or
making
have to fire
some
overhead,
for
fire. This is where a lot of
subscribers.
the deaths happen. They're firing.
so if you're a subscriber, you can request some.
This is
But I'm
GHF.
also
Yeah,
making
that's the UG.
You've got a
bracelets
US flag on the
with
back of his helmet.
So they're all
the
just
flags of
And now
places
people
that
going over
are
the hill.
experiencing
You can tell by the video,
imperialist,
there's gonna be war there,
immoral
because internal
violence
war,
by
because
the
there's not enough
US
to feed
and
even a
Israel.
fifth of that. Now, that's
There
not all
are
we're gonna
many,
do. We're gonna get back to
many
respect families.
places. I'm
Aids
working
in
on a
the
way
day.
to
It's
sell
meant to be.
them
We have enough facilities.
to
We have enough logisticals.
donate
We'll have it
the
ready to go daily.
proceeds to
They'll stock
mutual
us, that's why I
aid
get the massive
funds
details,
in these
stock us all, they're not gonna use
places.
it today. Why? What is that? Just
It's a work in
this is how they
progress,
play with
but
us. But most importantly, they play it and antagonize Palestinian people.
I'll
So
keep
they're
you
sick.
It's called a
updated.
distribution site.
Yeah.
And when you think of the word distribution, you think, a friendly NGO worker handing out based on what people need, maybe one per person.
Yeah.
This is not that at all.
It's
They're
not.
leaving it out there. You were not actually doing any distributing. You were just standing back and watching. There's a report you wrote on the 13th of September, and it has a breakdown of the timings.
Yeah.
Convoy arrived at at Site 4 at 7:49 a.m. Convoy departure 8:57. 1 minute later, distribution start 8:58, and then the site cleared 9:39.
My
So that's
brain went to
bloody hell,
Angola.
41 minutes.
41
I
minutes
mean,
for them to get
for
there.
Yeah.
Hundreds, maybe thousands of
So
people.
run from there to get in and get it out. And that's crazy because that's the
The
window
thing
that
with,
the
like,
IDF kind of
flag
give us to
colors is
distribute
that
the aid.
there's
And
so
let's
many-
be honest, that 1 hour time window is not because they have to move
Excuse
the
me.
troops elsewhere. It's because
There's so
they want
many
to just make a
colors
friendly, get
that
in there, get out, and if
exist
you don't get out within that hour,
that there's a
then
lot of
There's an organisation
repetition,
called Forensic Architecture,
and
and they looked at an
like
average
especially
of
the
all
ones that
amounts
have
of time
similar
that
colors
GHF
to
sites were
like
open. This was
historical
between,
oppressors.
May
I
and
mean,
July. So that's all we've
Belgium
got there.
had their
And
own
the
share
average
of
across
that.
all of them was 23
Germany,
minutes was the average
it's
time
the
that it was.
same
It's
color
insane, yeah.
as
It was
this.
10 minutes, some of them.
And we're
It's
constantly
like a way
battling
to try to
with
make
the
them
IDF. No, we need to do
distinct.
it long, we need to do it. No, that's it. So they'll be accused of people that have come for miles. And what they'll do is, even if we've got loads of aid to keep handing, no, time's up now.
I do need to get more green
Hello.
because
All right.
So you've got these kids.
a lot
Waving
of
up.
the flags that these
People, women, and
nations and
children
the
that are
people
queued
that
up,
are
and
in
so
them
sad.
that are
Well, it's so sad.
experiencing
They'll still have smiles on their
this
faces, they'll do it, and they'll
unconscionable
walk off and they'll come back to you,
violence
"How was
and
it?
death
You've gone for
have a
miles.
lot of
Did you see we've still
green
got
in their
food? We can't
flags.
give it to you. The IDF have said, no, time's up, we're leaving. You can't
Red,
stay
white, and
anymore. It's
blue
mad.
is at
It's sickening to
like
the
at
core.
least
And
20%.
what's stopping
Yeah,
is
especially in the
resilience of
Western
the Palestinian
world.
kids and the women, and the guys. They come here with smiles on their faces, not get aid, be shot at, all this stuff.
and
Come
the
back the next day,
places that
whoa,
the
what must be
US
going on out
has
there that you could come here to this monstrosity
colonized
and still have a smile on your face? How is that possible?
And there's videos and pictures
and
that you
destabilized.
posted of Palestinian kids, 4,
yeah.
5, 6 years
Oh
old,
my God.
and that's almost half their life.
A lot of them are orphans. Children that come, they come because they don't have a family. They have to come and brave it. They don't come holding a parent's hand. No. They're coming on themselves. So more likely they are orphans and they hang around and they get the food and they're just thinking, how are you smiling? And you know what's sad actually? Because what's sad? The kids
This
always,
is maybe a
listen to
dumb
God Save America.
question,
I'm like,
but
hell, you know, it's
does
really sad. We're singing God
the
Save America. Oh, cheering
UK
America.
have
I'm like, it's because we're
Marines?
getting food
Are
and
they
that's just so
called
welcoming.
Marines?
Yeah, it's not right. Yeah, it's not.
Because I understand that this gentleman is a Marine. Oh, he's affected by it. Yeah, I would hope so.
Okay, so I work at Site 4, which is near the Nusrat camp. Okay, North Gaza. It's heavy activity, heavy bombing from the IDF. And we drive in through all this. As you can see, it's like a Terminator 2 Judgment movie. It's apocalyptic. And what's crazy is, just from a bit of a military background, all this is rebar, heavy concrete. So these buildings aren't built from just a bit of concrete, this and that, a bit of brick. No, these buildings will stand up some heavy ordnance, some heavy bombing. So for them to look like that, they've been mulleted 3, 4, 5 times.
I learned from Stuart Little as my son that
that goes on the whole of Gaza. The whole
there
of
is
Gaza
a
is
basketball
flattened. If you stand up
player.
buildings, those
Is
stand-up
it the
buildings will be
Spurs?
smashed.
So now you're filming.
Yeah.
probably on the way
I don't know
in or out.
teams
This is on the way
or
in.
sports
in
for
his early morning,
that
early morning,
matter,
yeah,
but
just
who
try
was an
take yourself back to
IDF
that moment when you're filming this.
soldier.
What are you thinking when you're
And
seeing
they
that?
were playing in
driving into
Texas,
an
and
apocalypse.
the
And
people
funny
in
thing is,
Texas
imagine
were
if you was
booing
given a vision
him.
of this in the future. You think the world would be destroyed by nuclear
In
weapons. You
a
live in nuclear
conservative
apocalypse. It's
stronghold
literally-
like
I've been to numerous war
Texas,
zones all over. I've never seen anything
people
like it. Never
understand
in my
the
life have I ever seen
crimes
something like
that
this.
are happening by the IDF.
Holy shit.
And,
Yeah,
and
we
so
have Marines.
when you're here
Okay.
in Site 4,
Yeah.
is this an active war zone?
As
in,
an
this isn't one of the safe
American
zones?
No, it's an active
growing
war zone.
up
So this is a
in
misconception
this
as well,
school
that the
system,
IDF
I'm
work with us.
deeply
We hate them. The
uneducated.
amount of times they fired on us is insane. The IDF are fucking crazy. Just literally had about fucking 40 rounds on a machine gun, hit that sunburn.
One of the main characters of
fucking
The
don't
Boys,
fucking die.
too.
They sweat
Oh,
everywhere.
interesting.
They're
I
firing
haven't
mortars
seen
into
that
our
show.
camp.
It's
Or
one of
inside
those
our
shows
camp.
that
This
I
isn't a one-off
feel
incident. This
like
isn't a one-off.
there are
We're
many
showing up
people
there on
don't
comms to
realize that
IDF
it's
telling commander to
satire,
and he goes, "Oh, it wasn't
and they
us.
like it for the
You
wrong
joke. It wasn't us.
reasons.
You're behind us.
Where they're
Okay,
like,
trained
oh
soldiers, you know
yeah,
where the
this is
firing came
great,
from. You're
instead
the
of
only
being
people
like,
that area's cleared, you're behind us, then it happens again.
don't be
So
like
they're
this.
having a laugh at us. They're joking. They're trying to antagonize us also.
The impression that I got from afar was that the IDF and the GHF were working hand in hand on this.
No, they didn't like us. They are the biggest threat to us, more than the supposed Hamas. The biggest threat. It's just a shooting. So I'm videoing.
Yeah, guess what? Hamas does not kill
Let's just,
children.
let's go back to
They're not baby
that
killers.
site. And I think the day was the 25th of September.
Yep, 25th September.
And
What can you
I think from a
expect
distance you probably witnessed quite a few deaths, but this was one that
when
you
people have
so
been
can you just talk?
Yeah,
oppressed,
I was doing actually,
genocided,
so I actually witnessed statements
displaced,
from two of my
ethnically
UG personnel.
cleansed for
Okay,
so long?
so I'm doing. We finished distribution.
With
I'm doing my reports.
the
What
Israeli
happened
government
was,
actively
a young
funding
lad had been on the
Hamas as
probably
well,
20 meters outside a camp. Okay, young
so
boys.
that they can create an enemy to
12
fearmonger
years
with.
old, okay, everyone's cleared off. This is Sci-Fi. Everyone's cleared off, apart from the people getting their medical aid. They go away. Then a young lad has been standing in the berm, messing around, 12 years old. Now, rules of engagement once again. It's always, you have steps. The guys, like, mate, come on. Not so many terms. Go away, go away, go away. You need to go away. Why? You got to clear them off, because if you don't move, you're going to get shot by the IDF. Okay, so he didn't move away. He's still joking around. 12 years old. He could have had learning disabilities. We don't know. So they've thrown a smoke grenade next to him. Obviously, it's not lethal smoke grenade. Just to say, hey, come on, let's go.
So that was the security
That's
guys.
security, UG guys, okay? Tried to get him away. And the IDF had a base 100 meters back. Then, moments later, they've shot him, sniper rifle 762, to his shoulder. Hey, you're not surviving that, especially a 12-year-old boy. He drops to the floor. Okay, he manages to get up. He gets to the bridge that you see. Gets to the bridge. He collapses on the bridge. Then, it's 30 minutes before they get to the young lad who's now clearly dead. 30 minutes. I'm not a doctor, but you've got one gunshot wound to the
The
shoulder.
way
762,
the Israeli
collapsed 30
government
minutes,
and
okay,
the
so then
US
that's
both
obviously taken away.
actively
I don't know
target
what's going on.
children
Don't know what happened.
is
Who took him away?
evil.
I don't know. It would have been just some Palestinians. That's it.
So it was an ambulance.
No, it wasn't an ambulance. No. It's just a standard took a salvage vehicle that they got, took him away.
Just have an idea. Is it this site you're talking about? And was he in this area here?
So he's around. So this is Site 4. Okay, he'll just be standing around there. Just
Around there.
That's
And
it.
then if you go back even further, you can see the bridge.
Yeah, exactly. So managed to get to the bridge. So you're talking 150 meters out.
He's gone from here to there.
Yeah, exactly.
There would have been other guys around that.
Yeah, so you have these the most eyes on right here. You have WG on the other side, but we have optics here, so we can thoroughly see what's going on. The guys have reported it, thoroughly seeing what's going on through the optics.
Could the bullet have come from anywhere else?
No, it's only, listen, we're all well trained. So all well trained, like I said, all UG special forces, everyone is well trained. You know exactly where it's come from. It's impossible. The only angle from the shot, the entry wound, the way he's fallen, It wasn't a UG guy, and it wasn't any Hamas who were behind that robot. It's all cleared out by IDF. The only people behind
Yeah,
us
I really
are
like Declassified UK.
And you
They're
said it was a
very
762?
thorough and do a lot of
762,
fact
Yeah,
checking
just tell me
of
what
him,
round that is.
like
What's
asking
the
these
damage
very
then?
important
well,
questions. Like
762 will take you down.
that's
Okay, so
actual
from that,
journalism.
caliber of weapon, okay, the size of weapon,
Imagine that.
You're not going to survive that. You're not
People
gonna survive it
doing their
whatsoever. For him to
jobs.
be able to get up and get over there is a testament to the resilience and strength these people have.
Especially a 12-year-old.
12-year-old,
child.
exactly that. It's like, well, that's it, fight or flight. He's been hit, get up, let me get to there. But obviously the wound's overcoming. He's collapsed and bled out.
So you think he would be dead?
Oh, you can't. You cannot possibly survive that. It's impossible. Shoot the chest, gunshot wound, 762, that close range, 30 minutes untreated. You've bled out 100%.
I mean, I tried to find something online. Yeah. All that I found was a news report from a Palestinian news organization, Quds Network, just saying on the 25th that a Palestinian had been shot at that aid sign.
Oh, right. So what's something reported?
It was
I also
very brief
saw
details. No,
that
no,
there
no details
was
of
a
age or anything like
Lebanese
that.
It's insane. It was
journalist
straight up war crimes, and you'll see the report. It's straight up murder. So no one said
that
take a witness
was
statements, but I know. Take
killed out in the open, no qualms by the IDF.
Then I'm expecting to come back
Today, I think it was today.
Interview. Nothing happened. Okay, I've reported a murder. Okay,
Par for
young
the
boy,
course
nothing
for
happened.
the
Now, hear me out here, it's like I
genocidal
sat and thought about
apartheid
this before.
state.
Well, what could actually be done? They go to the IDF, you killed a boy, we've not. Okay, well, we've got a report here.
Because
You
they
got a video? No.
understand
Okay, well,
to
we're
some
gonna make it harder for you
degree
to even
that
get
what
in
they are
carry this
doing
on.
is
So it's all well
wrong,
and good saying,
and that
why did the
they
hierarchy do
don't
something? Why
want
did the ICC do
information
something? Why
getting
is
out
Kurdistan
about
done
their
something? Why hasn't
crimes.
anyone else done anything? Because they're all to a
That
certain
is
level
what is so
compromised. I'm not sticking up for GSM.
wild
They should have
about
done
it.
something. They should have come back to me and said, get more reporting done on this. I would have liked that, but it didn't happen. But there you go. You've got one young lad there, lost his life. His parents don't know what happened.
Otherwise, they wouldn't
Got
feel the
date,
need
20th September.
to
That was the time.
buy
Site
up all
4,
of
hopefully,
these
you know,
media
you get back to
corporations
them
or
what actually happened.
influence them with pro-Zionist billionaires and corporate interests.
So, I mean, you kind of alluded to this before, but why are you speaking out now?
Yeah, well, there are two reasons. There's two reasons. One, due to what I witnessed before and what I was able to document, if I can expose these people and see more, has very flirty with the word malpractice, see more crimes, then I'll report that 100%. I'd rather be in there, be able to do it rather than it go amiss. That, but most importantly, why I'm doing it now, I just thought because it was going out the window, Palestine was getting forgot about. No matter how horrible the massacre is, something else comes in the media, people forget about it. I'm like, the crime's still going on. There's still children being murdered, but if it's not being reported about, it gets forgot about. So it was just important, right, within myself to expose the crimes now. There's never a right time sometimes, but this was my right time.
You know, you've seen some of the comments on the videos that you put up. I mean, the fact stands that you were paid to be there.
Yeah. Yes.
And so people are saying, you know, you were profiting off the situation.
Yeah. You know what the funny thing is?
Well,
I'm not doing this for
another
the
great
reason I put my hand
question.
up the parapet, I'm not looking for a round of applause. I really could not care less. I'm happy that I'm exposing and doing the work I asked God to put me in.
The complicity of the war complex and the individual players who
should not be talking about this.
are acting on behalf of these
And you said you were shocked by what
complicit
the IDF had
governments.
done in Gaza. You were a Royal Marine Commando in Iraq.
Yeah, no, I did private security to the Americans over in Iraq, but I've been in Afghanistan for the British military.
So you're in Afghanistan as a Royal Marines Commando. You know, there were war crimes committed by our own forces in Afghanistan.
Yeah, that's been documented. Yeah.
Why is what's
in
happening
addition
Gaza so
to
much
the
more shocking
US
than, you know, what
and
happened in
other
Afghanistan?
European
from being honest,
powers.
I've 7 years. Okay, Afghanistan, the Gulf, East Africa, Northern Ireland. We go off NATO standards of rules of engagement. It's embedded in me. You know, this is my life. Going to different conflict zones, humanitarian aid, sometimes training military. Okay, they don't even slightly go away from rules of engagement. They flaunt the rules. It is absolutely insane. They class the Palestinians. They must class. Well, I've heard it from the mouths as animals, and certainly do to be able to do what they do.
And lastly, do you regret going there?
No, not at all. Not at all. You know, I witnessed what evil they did on television. I prayed to go over there and do help. I know I'm going to get chastised for this in the work region, in the military region. You know, the military region don't like this. Don't you're exposing people for keep it secret bullshit. You know, I'm doing what a soldier and any human being should do. If you've seen crimes like this, not even close to this, expose the bastards. You expose them. That is the duty of a soldier and the duty of a decent human being. So I don't care about money. I don't care about further employment. I care about what
That
I've seen.
was
to show the
another
people
good
what's happening over there.
question.
And it's beyond revolt. It's beyond disgusting. So
Of like, it's
I'm
good
glad
to
I was
have
over there.
people speaking out about this.
Well, Dave, thank you
but
for coming here and telling us.
why
about
didn't
what
you
happened
have
on
any
those sites. It really
qualms
is
about
a
being
harrowing
deployed
story.
there?
If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to our channel. Please like the video. Please donate if you're able to. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.
Wow. Really great coverage. Thank you for sharing that. It's still being revealed to this day. We probably won't ever see the extent of war crimes committed by the West. Yeah, there was a story that came out last year where SAS soldiers broke into a house and shot everyone, including children, while they were in their beds in Afghanistan, I think. Yeah. And especially when it comes to these Western imperialist forces who have had these huge empires that they have the means, after they've ransacked all of these places, largely places that are inhabited by Indigenous people of color, for resources, for cheap labor, slave labor, and that they have the means to cover up their crimes. It's unconscionable. We need leaders who are actively interested in reparations. But we saw how France refused to acknowledge, which country was it in the UN, that they proposed some sort of legislation in acknowledgement of the harm of slavery, the slave trade, that it was specifically targeted at France, but yeah, we saw that the UK refrained from voting, the US did. Surprise, surprise. I had someone in my YouTube comments the other day try to claim that slavery did not exist in the UK. And I was like, take your white supremacist bullshit elsewhere. That's not acceptable here. Like, the nerve. Let's see. UK explanation of vote on the declaration of trafficking of enslaved Africans and racialized chattel enslavement of Africans as the gravest crime against humanity. Yeah, just... that is a basic. Obviously. Who was it proposed by? Ghana, on behalf of the African Union, consistently stressed that this resolution was not to be read as a legal document. So the African Union, the coalition of African countries in the UN. Yeah, that's such a simple thing to do as well. Just acknowledge, just admit that it is a grievous crime that governments and people who've been complicit have engaged in. Like, I don't have words for that. Okay, so continuing talking about Indigenous resistance. This is a video that came out yesterday by Democracy Now! Data Colonialism, Native Communities Fight AI Data Centers on Indigenous Land. This is becoming an increasingly common phenomenon, which is very concerning. It just continues this stealing of land, especially sacred land. A lot of these places are being built on sacred sites. And that this is used to continue the oppression, genocide, erasure of Indigenous people.
Birthday. We go now from Memphis to Montana, where we're joined by Crystal Tubles, a longtime Oglala Lakota and Northern Cheyenne activist. She's the executive director of the group Honor the Earth, which has launched the No Data Center Coalition. Honor the Earth has been closely monitoring the construction of data centers in or near Indigenous lands. She's joining us from the Northern Cheyenne Reservation in southeastern Montana. Crystal Tubles, welcome to Democracy Now! Can you give us an overview? You've made a crowdsourced map of data centers and their relation to Indigenous lands across the United States. Talk about how you see this issue of data centers.
Yeah, good morning, Amy. Thank you for having me. I think, similar to what we just heard, we're seeing the targeting of native lands. But for us, when we talk about hyperscale data centers, we typically talk about the entire AI infrastructure because that's the driving demand for the hyperscale data centers themselves. And so we're looking at the physical impacts of the data centers. We're also looking at the critical minerals and the mining that's going to be needed to power and create things like GPUs and servers and the chips, even the air conditioners for these hyperscale data centers, which often, and especially with this push for that mining to happen domestically now, we're going to be looking at that mining happening on Indigenous lands. We're also looking at the uranium just now being added to the list of critical minerals. And so that's also going to be happening to power nuclear for fuel. And so we have to also look at these hyperscale data centers that are creating, using massive amounts of electricity, and where is that energy going to come from? Now they're shifting towards nuclear. They're looking at revitalizing the coal industry and expanding fracked gas until they can get nuclear online. And so we try to connect all of those dots across the board, knowing that all of those industries right there are going to target Indigenous lands as they have in the past and as we've already experienced. The other thing that we're seeing is that they're targeting Indigenous lands because we have many of our large land-based tribes, we have access to that. We have access to water. There's tax incentives that come along with it. We have a lack of legal infrastructure oftentimes to hold these companies accountable. Also the promised economic development that these corporations come with when you are dealing with communities that often live in extreme poverty, the promise of these jobs is something that appeals to them, right? And then we also have the jurisdictional issues that happen on Indigenous lands. So all of those create an environment that is very conducive to these hyperscale data centers being built on native lands.
Yes. And with the government, the US government intentionally disrupting and eroding sovereignty of Indigenous people and nations, that there is this constant meddling in Indigenous affairs in order to keep this oppression going.
Talk about the issue of secrecy surrounding the locations and owners of these data center projects. Why your map, this crowdsourced map, has been so hard to compile.
Yeah, so oftentimes these corporations, the hyperscale corporations such as Microsoft, Google, Apple, Meta, and Amazon, they're oftentimes using their subsidiaries and then using also native-owned energy companies to approach our communities, but they're also coming with NDAs in hand. So what we're hearing from different native nations is that corporations will come, they'll start by talking about solar panels and installing that on their lands, and then it quickly shifts to a hyperscale data center. But often, before they even get to that conversation, they're asking them to sign an NDA. And so that makes our tribal leadership accountable to them and not to the people who they're actually supposed to represent. And so oftentimes we don't know that these projects are coming to our lands until we hear in a press release or on the news, or we hear rumors.
So it doesn't give people a chance to resist and protest.
Organizers and activists to really build those relationships and to figure out where they're proposing these hyperscale data centers. So right now we're looking at about 103 to 160 proposed hyperscale data centers on native lands.
Crystal Tubols, the Tulsa City Council just passed a 9-month moratorium on data centers. The Seminole Nation unanimously passed its own moratorium. Can you talk about how, out of all the states in the country, an anti-data center movement is gaining momentum in Oklahoma? Why Oklahoma?
I mean, right now we have a really strong team from Honor the Earth that's located in Oklahoma, and they've been on the ground in these communities, hosting town halls, having meetings, reaching out to the tribes, attending tribal council meetings, door knocking, petitions, just everything across the board. But Oklahoma is oftentimes considered a sacrifice zone. And so for us at Honor the Earth, we really made it an intention to invest in those communities, and especially because we have activists and organizers on the ground there. And so what we're seeing now is that they've been able to build multiracial coalitions with folks in agriculture, ranchers, landowners, et cetera. And they've built these coalitions, and they are working with local communities and local municipalities and local tribes to push back and put in some kind of buffer and protections for our communities. We also have, the Muskogee were able to block a resolution that would have moved forward a hyperscale data center. And so, it's really a testament to the powerful organizing that's been happening there and people pushing back. The other thing is, if we can get these victories in Oklahoma, which is basically the crossroads of every extractive industry in the United States, then every other state needs to follow suit, and there's not an excuse for us to be able to push back in our own communities.
Crystal Tubols, you've called data centers continued colonialism in the name of imperialism. Can you explain what you're saying? You were also very active in the standoff at Standing Rock, where Indigenous people from Latin America, the United States, Canada, and their non-native allies, thousands gathered to fight the Dakota Access Pipeline. What connections do you see between these?
Yeah, I think Indian country is always a target for extractive industry. And what history has taught us is that anytime outside industry comes into Indian country and has all these big, promises of jobs and economic development and language revitalization and all of these things, that it tends to not work out for us. We are never the ones that actually truly benefit from that.
Yep.
And we're always the one that ends up having to sacrifice our relationship to land, air, water, our communities and our non-human relatives as well.
Colonizer
what
behavior.
We can see from that and learn from that is like, that is a continuation of settler colonialism in the land grabs that we had seen back in the 1800s. Now we're just seeing a modern day iteration of that, where these corporations are coming in because we have large land bases, grabbing up the land, building, saying that they're going to build with the tribes, offer these things, go back on their promises, and then yet again we are left with the damages and the results and the negative impacts of that. And so I think history tells us that this is just this is the same thing with a new face, a new name. And so for us, it was really important that we called it what it is, which is, data colonialism, right? And really pushed back on the physical and material impacts on our lands.
A recent Bloomberg analysis found electricity costs go up nearly 267% near data centers. Yet a lot of these data centers target poorer tribal nations.
Yep.
If you can talk about the environmental costs, the amount of energy that's required, and also the economic costs.
Yeah, the human cost.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at, from what we know, like a lot of times these data centers come with NDAs. So it's really difficult to know exactly how much water usage that they're going to have or how much impact they're going to have on the grid. But what we do know from existing hyperscale data centers that have already been built is that we're looking at anywhere between 300,000 to like up to 2.7 million. I've heard even 5 million gallons per year of water that's being used, right? And like these corporations, they come in and they present this closed loop water system that they're going to be using. And they tell our nations that there will be zero impact to the water. They also tell us that, in fact, they're going to use water positivity, and they're actually going to increase the usage in the quality of the water so we can actually use it more, which both have been dispelled since then, but it's a very strong narrative. So we know that there's going to be negative impacts on the water based on existing hyperscale data centers. We also know about the noise pollution that comes with these, right? Many times they have diesel generators, but also the noise alone from a hyperscale data center is around 97 decibels. For those of us that know what an LRAD is, a long-range acoustic device, it's a sound cannon that can rupture your eardrums. That's at about 140 decibels, right? So 97 to 140 is not a big jump. And so you're looking at, hearing loss for long-term exposure to the sound that's coming from them. Also, a recent study came out and said that hyperscale data centers can increase the heat and create heat islands up to 16 degrees on the land around them. So if you think about the impacts on ecosystems and the temperature increase of the water that's going to happen, we're looking at ecological collapse around these hyperscale data centers in our communities. And then that's not to mention the rare cancers that have been tied to hyperscale data centers. As we heard before, is the respiratory issues that come from breathing in all the toxins that they emit as well. And then the electricity itself, they need massive amounts of electricity to be powered. And what we're seeing is that they're putting a massive strain on the grid. And so for Native communities, oftentimes our homes and our communities do not have an updated electricity grid, right? The country in general does not have one, and tribes more so. So what we're looking at is rolling power outages that are going to be coming. Also the threat of fires.
And that's also
when
intentional
you don't have up-to-code
by
electricity in your
the U.S. government.
in your home, updating the wiring and whatnot, you're looking at the risk of fires if you're going to flood that much electricity into the grid, right? And what we're seeing already is that these data centers, these corporations are already working with groups like our Public Service Commission, our county commissioners, and they're approving upfront costs where the ratepayers and taxpayers pay for these hyperscale data centers upfront before they're even built. So we've already been seeing increases almost double in our electricity bills here in Montana. One winter, I think last winter, we seen a young woman with a trailer house have an electricity bill of $900 as a single person in a trailer house in Montana.
What?
And we did not have an extreme winter that winter. And so we're already feeling the impacts of the electricity and the cost.
God.
You're also looking at the jobs. So they come with promises about jobs and economic development, which in the construction phase, yes, there may be up to 1,500 jobs that are available. Oftentimes those jobs will not go to local community members. They will go to construction companies who already specialize in building hyperscale data centers. And then once construction phase is over, which can last up to 2 years, those jobs drop all the way down, sometimes to 3 full-time jobs. And so we know that for sure in Rapid City, South Dakota, they've made that public where they go from 1,500 to 3 full-time jobs. And so they actually are not following through on any of the promises that they're making to our communities.
Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the Daily
Okay, so continuing along, we see how this is as that lovely lady was saying, how it's a continuation not only of settler colonialism, the capitalist class imposing all of this very extreme violence on the environment and human beings and the economy, that it also is this continuation of white supremacist ethnic cleansing that is institutionalized, where we also have the complicity of the government, where they are offering contracts to these data centers, being funded by government money. Okay, I saw this a couple of days ago when it came out, how nature conservation harms indigenous peoples. Just continuing indigenous resistance, how there are all of these tactics to undermine indigenous sovereignty. Erasure and of indigenous history, attacking sovereignty. It is to cover up historical crimes, but also it is a way to erode the concept that the earth can be protected and healed, and that indigenous identity cannot be separated from the land, and how culture and like ethnicity develops because of indigenous identity and being connected to the land, and how if we actually did the real concepts of land back, not through nonprofit means, but through like an equitable manner, that provides people sovereignty, that indigenous people know how to take care of the land. Imagine that. That like, if we offer people more human dignity and the rights that they deserve, that the earth will be better off for it, in addition to humanity in general. And they receive weapons from Western nations. Yes, exactly. UK weapons have been found in the hands of the RSF, likely by way of the UAE. Yeah, and the US as well, of course. And it just reiterates this sentiment of global anti-Blackness that exists, where there are these genocides that have been ongoing for a while that we have not seen in the public discourse hardly at all, especially when it comes to the Sudan humanitarian crisis.
A mini tracking. I saw that eco-rangers in military uniforms were with my family. They arrested and mistreated me. They said that was forbidden, that it's poaching. Then they held me down on the ground and whipped me. They undressed me and let wax from a burning candle drip onto my back. Yet I did nothing. All I did was gather honey.
Jesus.
There was nothing to confess to, but they didn't believe me.
This
they came and
attempt,
said our houses were filthy, and
or like this continuation of colonization and resource extraction, where these animals that they are conserving would not need to have these conservation sanctuaries to begin with if there hadn't been colonization, people coming in and poaching all of these animals to endangerment and sometimes extinction, where it's like, yeah, you created this problem and now you are wanting to present yourself as the solution with this bad faith framing of saying like, oh, this is charitable, this is helping people, providing jobs, when they're actively upholding this colonial oppression. Take it.
NRT now controls
That
at
may
least
be
43
the
community
Scorpio in me.
conservancies, comprising around 10%
Like,
of Kenya's land.
this really is no different, the situations that we are finding ourselves in, to other moments of revolution, like the Industrial Revolution, but I mean, not in, that was a revolution of industry. Obviously, not of human beings, but of conditions that are very similar to that.
And stuff, but let me tell you exactly why this is happening. Okay, a man died on an Amazon shop floor, warehouse floor, sorry, whilst working, and the workers weren't allowed to help him. A woman tried to do CPR, and management came over and said,
"Oh, whoops.
Go back to work, everyone turn around and carry on doing what you're doing." And they let that man die there.
Yeah.
He died being a slave to the fucking system. A company that is worth billions. And this warehouse in Oregon had the worst injury rates in 2019. Worst casualty rates. The staff wanted to do something, and management were like, turn around and carry on doing what you're doing. They had to stand there and work and...
This is also, I'm going to finish letting him talk, but like, this is also talking about Oregon in the US, a state in the US, where it's not an accident that these billionaires and oligarchs were standing behind Trump during his inauguration. How they dumped a ton of money into his campaign, have donated tons of money to him so that they can get government contracts. They are deeply invested in the industrial war complex and in slave labor, essentially, where they are banking on not having oversight, where all of these restrictions and regulations that were poor to begin with, not sufficient to begin with, where like the Doge idiots and Elon Musk and his like brain dead children, staff of children, came and destroyed all of these regulations. It's to allow this to happen.
Parcels because Amazon have a deadline, whilst their colleague was behind them dead. I don't have any fucking words, but can you see now why shit's starting to go fucking mad?
Yeah, why people are lighting up these warehouses.
Not just fed up. People are seeing their colleagues and their friends dying from being overworked, underpaid, and taken advantage of.
There really is no extent to the evil of capitalism and all supporting institutions, yes. And supporting institutions and oppression that include all of these forms of discrimination and marginalization that uphold capitalism. Thank you for sharing that. Jesus. Ugh. It's such a shit show. This is why, though, like, talking about revolutionary action, direct action, anarchism, unionizing, communism, Marxism, socialism, all of these leftist ideals that, like, in and of themselves are not perfect because humans are awful, but how it is necessary for us to continue to survive. And these people in the capitalist class, these billionaires who profit off of all of this human suffering, are not even willing to end this kind of destruction and human suffering for the continuation of their own greed. Of when they are expelling all of these people from employment, when they are replacing people with AI and robots, that they won't have people to pay for their shit to exploit. But they don't care because they're just wanting to be the last people standing. And they also are deeply invested in eugenics, and it's like, you are some of the ugliest motherfuckers, inside and out. So why do you think you're so superior? Which is why we need to keep talking about how we can't extricate these systems of oppression and colonization from the discrimination that upholds them. Okay, so talking about resistance as we just went over some horrifying things. This is Geronimo's life story, Apache Mexican-American Wars, and this is with the Native American History documentary on the Native American History channel. Just to get an overview, Geronimo is probably the most famous Apache chief and one of the most known Native Americans in history. Born as Goyakla, the one who yawns, he was part of the Bedonkohe band of the Chiricahua Apache tribe. Chiricahua. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I'm sorry if I am. Geronimo is best known for leading Apache resistance in wars against Mexico and the United States. He was a medicine man and warrior. The history of the Apache tribes is a complicated one. They are Native American people who lived in the American Southwest and Mexican North. Complicated, mostly because of settler colonization and genocide.
The life of Geronimo. In the 1850s, Geronimo's band traveled into Old Mexico, where they could trade.
I was trying to find resources that were created by Indigenous people, specifically Apache people, talking about their own history. And let me tell you, the algorithm is suppressing a lot of Indigenous voices. This has been a thing for a very long time, but especially with all of this AI slop to sort through, they elevate people who are not part of the group who actually is being affected and are just continuing the corporate interests and elevation of white supremacy.
Because a peace treaty was established. Camping outside a Mexican town, they stayed for several days. Leaving a few warriors to guard the camp, the rest of the men went into town to trade. When they were returning,
I'm going to find
they were met by
some
several
stuff.
women and
Normally, if
children
it's like
who
written,
told them
it's better
that Mexican troops
being
had
able to
attacked
find
their
sources
camp.
from
They returned to camp
Indigenous
and
people.
found their guard warriors
I'll
killed,
find some
their
and
horses,
go over that
supplies,
tomorrow.
and arms gone. Many of the women and children had been killed as well. Of those that lay dead were Geronimo's wife, mother, and 3 children. As a result, he hated Mexicans for the rest of his life. The Mexican Colonel Carrasco claimed this was a revenge attack for an Apache raid conducted earlier. Wild with grief, Geronimo burned his family's belongings, according to Apache tradition, before heading into the forest, where he claimed he heard a voice that told him, "No gun will ever kill you. I will take the bullets from the guns, and I will guide your arrows." Geronimo gathered a war party, and the Apaches marched to Mexico, where 8 companies of Mexican infantry met to fight them. When Geronimo saw that some of these soldiers were from the same company that participated in the massacre of his family, he got even more angry. Geronimo, being the one who had suffered the greatest loss in the massacre, was chosen to lead the Apache into battle. With Geronimo leading, the Apaches charged at an entire company of riflemen. Ignoring the bullets flying around his head and charging Mexican ranks armed only with a hunting knife, he began slashing his enemy. They screamed and prayed to St. Jerome to save them. He later took the death cries of his enemies as his new name. The legend of Geronimo was born. The life of Geronimo. Geronimo was born in what is today Arizona in the Nodoyon Canyon, near the present-day town of Clifton, Arizona, on June 16, 1829. His birth name was Goyakla, or One Who Yawns. He was part of the Bedonkohe subsection, a small but mighty group. They were part of the Chiricahua band of Apaches. Geronimo had 3 brothers and 4 sisters. As a young boy, he learned to farm crops of corn, beans, squash, and peppers in the fertile, well-watered country. But early on, his fellow Bedonkohes recognized that he had a gift for seeing into the future in order to interpret the present, and he was trained as a shaman, learning holy songs and prayers. By his coming of age, he showed talent for hunting, and in 1846, at 17, he was admitted to the Council of Warriors, which also allowed him to marry. At that time, the Apaches were at war with Mexicans to the south, the U.S. to the north, and the neighboring Comanche and Navajo tribes. He led 4 successful raids on the nearby tribes that year. Around the same time, Geronimo fell in love with a woman named Alope. The two married and had 3 children together. In the 1850s, the band traveled into Old Mexico, where they could trade because of a peace treaty. Near Casquille in Chihuahua, Mexicans attacked the Apache camp while most of the men were in town and killed most of the ones they found in camp. Geronimo's whole family was killed. After that, he mourned according to Apache tradition. While mourning, he heard a voice telling him no gun will ever kill him. Encouraged by this, he put on war paint and gathered warriors from his and other bands. The Apaches went on the war path. This included Geronimo's Badonkahe Apaches, led by Chief Mangus Colorado, the Chokonen Apaches by Chief Cochise, and the Nedni Apaches by Chief Hu. They crossed around 45 miles a day, stopping only to sleep and hunt. Reaching the settlement of Arispe, the Mexicans sent 8 companies of infantry. The Apaches won the battle, also thanks to the leadership and bravery of Geronimo. Others saw Geronimo leading the charge only with a knife in his hands, and after the battle they asked him to be the war leader of their people. In the next months, he led 2 raids on the Mexican frontier. Coming back from the second raid, they saw Mexican soldiers going north and followed them. The soldiers then proceeded to attack an Apache settlement. Their fight lasted a whole day. At the end, the soldiers decided to retreat. 8 Mexicans and 5 Apaches were killed. About the same time, the Apaches and Geronimo encountered white settlers for the first time. The 2 groups couldn't speak but communicated with gestures, befriending each other. Apaches camped near the settlers who were measuring land. They traded, and the settlers gave the Apaches money. They didn't understand the value of this money, but later found out from the Navajos it was very valuable. Geronimo said these were good men, and they were sad to see them go when they rode out west. Geronimo dedicated his life to battling his enemies. He led many war parties and raids into Mexican territory. These small assault teams, usually ranging between 5 and 30 warriors, killed soldiers wherever they could find them, and pillaged border settlements and supply trains for weapons, guns, horses, cattle, and food before escaping back to Apache territory. Wounded many times in battle, Geronimo taught his fellow warriors tactics of invisibility, slipping away into rocky canyons and mountains when pursued, striking quickly and from a long distance. In an event that is now known as the Bascom Affair, in February of 1861, Lieutenant George Bascom was sent to recover livestock and a young boy who had been kidnapped a while back. He was sent against Chiricahua Apaches, Geronimo's band, led by Chief Cochise. Cochise was held hostage, and during the negotiations claimed his people never did such things. Cochise escaped, and both parties took hostages. All the hostages had later been killed. This started a 25-year period of bloody hostilities between the Chiricahua Apaches and the United States, and a personal 10-year war between Cochise and the U.S. Army. After this event, the native tribes of the area agreed not to be friendly toward the white settlers anymore. There was no general engagement, but a long struggle followed. Sometimes Apaches attacked the soldiers, and sometimes the Army attacked the Apaches. In 1862 and 1863, Geronimo led 2 raids where Apaches took many goods from Mexicans and repelled 1 counterattack. That same year, in 1863, the chief of the Membreno Apaches, Mangus Colorado, went to make a peace treaty with the American settlers. He was promised blankets, flour, beef, and all manner of supplies in return for peace and living near the fort in Apache Tejo. Traveling with 3 of his warriors, he arrived under a flag of truce.
Okay. Rather than continuing with that, this is actually an article It is written by a white person who is not of Apache descent. I'm still working on finding stuff, but again, the algorithm is not kind to Indigenous, especially revolutionary Indigenous perspectives. So this is Geronimo the Warrior. We're getting more of a good faith framing of who he was. In 1906, Geronimo published his autobiography recounting the fascinating story of his life, from his years as a resistance fighter to his capture and subsequent period of celebrity in which he appeared at the 1904 St. Louis World Fair and met President Roosevelt. Edward Rey, or I guess that's like the French pronunciation, Riley, maybe. I don't know how he says it. Author of Legends of American Indian Resistance, tells of the tragic massacre which underpinned his life. It's cool that we have photos of him. Geronimo, whose name was Goyakla, sometimes spelled Goyathle, is one of the most famous figures in the history of the American Indian resistance effort. His name is virtually synonymous with that of a warrior, so much so that his name has been appropriated for a wide range of military or simply adventuresome endeavors. Yeah, to support the imperialist militarization and continued genocide and resource extraction by these empires. So we see how revolutionaries are constantly whitewashed and co-opted by these oppressors for their own violent means. Geronimo's reputation is well-deserved, for his very name excited fear in settlers both north and south of the U.S.-Mexican border. Good. He was hated by Euro-Americans and even by some Apaches, who blamed him for continuing to stoke the fires of warfare after ultimate defeat of the Apaches seemed inevitable. Well, this is what happens when people are forced to defend themselves and fight for independence and sovereignty. In addition, he lacked the social and political leadership skills of Chief Joseph of the Nez Perce, and the multi-dimensional qualities, including the spiritual character of a Sitting Bull, the great Lakota leader who served as the magnet attracting huge numbers of Plains Indians to him, a force that would secure the most famous resistance victory ever against the U.S. military at Little Bighorn in 1876. Geronimo was primarily a fighter, a lasting reputation that led American paratroopers in World War II to call out the name Geronimo before plunging from their planes. School children for decades after Geronimo's death would similarly yell his name before undertaking a real or imagined feat of bravery, such as leaping from a swing into a river. A much more recent and highly controversial use of Geronimo's name was its employment by the U.S. military, as a code name linked to the 2011 operation that resulted in the death of Osama bin Laden. Geronimo Wright, so that's him with his warriors. Very cool. The association of Geronimo's name with that of the hated terrorist elicited considerable resentment by a wide range of organizations and individuals, including the National Congress of American Indians, the Onondaga National Council of Chiefs, Native American Publications, Fort Sill Apache Tribal Chairman Jeff Hauser, and Geronimo's great-grandson, Harlan Geronimo. Their response was so intense that the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs took up the issue at a hearing previously scheduled to discuss use of Indian names and images as sports mascots, and in other areas of popular culture. Defense Department officials argued that they had intended no disrespect to Geronimo and had named the total operation against bin Laden Operation Neptune Spear. Okay. Further naming each step alphabetically. The G step involved the capture or killing of bin Laden and was coded with the Indian leader's name, an explanation that did not do much to satisfy those who had raised objections to the use of Geronimo's name. Yeah, clearly. So what led Geronimo onto the path that would lead from the battlefields of Mexico and the Southwest to a raid into Pakistan? Although it would be serious oversimplification to reduce all of Geronimo's public life to one incident, certainly his life as a warrior was deeply influenced by a very personal event, an attack on an Apache camp by a Mexican general, Jose Maria Carrasco. For years, Apaches had been both trading with and fighting Mexicans. As soon as he reached adulthood, at about the age of 17, Goyakla, who was not yet known as Geronimo, was accepted as a warrior and entered into this dual relationship with Mexicans. About 2 years earlier, and so also talking about settlers, there are indigenous people in Mexico, and that this is conveniently leaving out the concept of Mexican settlers and the violence that they have committed, which is a colonizing enterprise that started with the Spanish and their descendants. About 2 years earlier, around 1844, Goyakla's father, Taklishim, had died of an illness, and Goyakla assumed responsibility for his mother, Juanita. Geronimo's autobiography, dictated to Stephen M. Barrett, superintendent of schools in Lawton, Oklahoma, with Asa Adklugi, a former student at the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, translating and published in 1906, shows a son deeply committed to his mother. Geronimo with Stephen M. Barrett and Asa Adklugi dictating his autobiography. Wow. Shortly after becoming a warrior, Goyakla married a young Nedni Apache, Alope, giving a herd of ponies, a substantial sum to her father, Noposo, for the privilege of wedding her. The price, according to his autobiography, set so high because she was a good daughter, and her father perhaps wanted to keep her with him. Goyakla and Alope had been lovers for some time, and he records in the autobiography that his greatest joy upon arriving at adulthood was that he could marry her. Oh, that's really sweet. Goyakla took Alope to live near his mother. His bride decorated their teepee with beads and pictures drawn on buckskin. She was a good wife, he notes, and they were happy together with their 3 children. When Goyakla crossed into Mexico again, around 1850, Geronimo in his autobiography cites 1858, but is often off in his dating, he had no reason to suspect anything out of the usual. Traveling in a large group under Mangas Coloradas, the Apaches, including members of the Bedonkohe band, to which Goyakla belonged, and the Nedni band, both subdivisions of the Chiricahua Apaches, passed through Sonora on their way to Casas Grandes. They camped at what is generally believed to be Janos, but referred to as Casquilla in the autobiography, which is the indigenous name. And many of the men went into town to trade. This went on for several days, each time a guard of men staying behind to protect the women, children, and supplies. One afternoon, however, as the men were returning to camp, they met some women and children fleeing from Mexican troops who had attacked the camp, killing the guards as well as many of the women and children, destroying supplies, and stealing the Apaches' ponies. When Goyakla reached the camp, he discovered his wife, mother, and 3 children all dead. Tragic. He tells in his autobiography of going off by himself and standing by a river. Geronimo, so many years after the event, does not say what he was feeling at that river, but his understated description clearly speaks powerfully to a great grief and sense of loss. Yeah, certainly. Without supplies and with most of their weapons and ponies lost, the survivors turned back toward Arizona. The elderly Geronimo recalls how he was unable to pray or devise any plan of action at the moment. Devoid of purpose, he followed his comrades silently, staying by himself just within hearing of the now much smaller group. Arriving at his home, Goyakla gazed, certainly with great sorrow, at Alope's decorations and their children's toy before burning them, along with his teepee and his mother's. Never again, Geronimo notes in his autobiography, would he feel content in his own home. Then, turning from his immediate grief, he vowed revenge on the Mexicans. A year later, Goyakla returned to Mexico within a large war party and began to exact that revenge. It reportedly was during this excursion into Mexico that his enemies began calling him Geronimo, although no definitive explanation for the naming has ever been given. The name stuck, and Geronimo would continue his battles against Mexicans and, before long, settlers and soldiers of the United States who invaded his homeland. Yeah, most notably. You can see also how this particular history that is being given is focused more on his fight with Mexicans than with settlers and soldiers of the U.S. That is U.S. propaganda. Earning the warrior's reputation that would stay with him throughout his life and into the 21st century, even into places that Geronimo could never have imagined, such as Pakistan. On the left, Geronimo as a U.S. prisoner. Of Geronimo at Carlisle, Pennsylvania in 1905, the day before the inauguration of President Roosevelt, and the inaugural parade of which Geronimo was to take part. So also this tokenization of people to be like, oh, look, we're working together, but still not providing sovereignty or giving land back. At first glance, Geronimo seems an unlikely candidate to compose his life story and be willing to share it with those whom he had been fighting for most of his adult life. There is a great desire, however, in many people, perhaps in most, to want to set the record straight and be understood, and Geronimo seemed to have been no different in this regard. He also expressed his hope that his story might persuade the government to allow him and other Apaches to return to their native Southwest to live. Yeah. In addition, Geronimo saw his autobiography as a way to make money. During his late years as a prisoner, he had learned the power of money and had taken to selling photographs, buttons, and other souvenirs. Consequently, when Barrett raised the possibility of telling his story, which is the writer for his autobiography, Geronimo insisted that he be paid for doing so. Geronimo's occasional suspicions that the Superintendent Barrett may have wanted his story in order to do him harm were softened by the presence of translator Asa Adklugi, who was a son of Jew, also spelled Woe. I'm probably spelling that wrong. Woe. Or saying that wrong. A longtime Geronimo friend, ally, and cousin by marriage. Fully aware that he was hated by many and at the mercy of the government, Geronimo was politically astute as he narrated his exploits, focusing in detail on his battles with Mexicans, but remaining generally reticent concerning encounters with the U.S. military. Okay, so part of that is also this self-censorship because of being held as a political prisoner. Still, the autobiography probably would never have been published without the support of President Theodore Roosevelt. Barrett's request to write Geronimo's life was rejected by the military, but an appeal to the president brought the desired permission. Responding later to the complete manuscript, President Roosevelt again offered his support, but with the suggestion that Barrett clarify that opinions expressed in the book were Geronimo's alone. Roosevelt was not hard to convince. Prior to Barrett's request, Roosevelt had himself made a request that Geronimo ride in his inaugural parade in March 1905, which the Apache leader did. Before leaving Washington, Geronimo met with the president and made a plea to be permitted to return to his homeland. Yeah, he's like, okay, if you're going to use me as a show pony, how about we have something of substance come from this? Roosevelt listened compassionately, but refused. Colonizer behavior. Explaining that he feared reprisals against the Apaches by area residents if they returned. Yeah, oh my god. When the autobiography was published in 1906, Geronimo, still trying and apparently believing that the president might relent, dedicated his narrative to President Roosevelt. Ugh, that's so sad. Yeah, appealing to the morality and egos of colonizers, while they can be manipulated at times, it's about power. It's this power imbalance and upholding these power structures that allow them to even be in that position in the first place. Okay. Let me see what we have time for. Sorry, I'm just checking something real quick. All right. Just in the interest of time, I don't think we're going to watch the French Revolution overview, but we can get into the reading. I think it's very pertinent to discuss how revolutionary histories, once again, are like minimized because when they are co-opted and told by imperialist forces, by these oppressors, that they have a vested interest in showing them to not be as radical or effective, and talking about the specifics of resistance tactics, that it takes a lot of digging and actually understanding who is a reliable source to get an authentic, good faith representation of these movements. Okay, so in the Scarlet Pimpernel, we, in the previous chapter, saw Chauvelin. He was going to intercept the Scarlet Pimpernel, and he was waiting for him to show up because that's what the secret note said that Marguerite was able to read, and that there's only Sir Percy in the room where Chauvelin is at, and he's asleep. So Chauvelin is continuing to wait. Chapter 15, Doubt. Marguerite Blakeney had watched the slight, sable-clad figure of Chauvelin as he worked his way through the ballroom. Then perforce she had to wait, while her nerves tingled with excitement. Listlessly, she sat in the small, still deserted boudoir, looking out through the curtained doorway on the dancing couples beyond, looking at them, yet seeing nothing, hearing the music, yet conscious of naught save a feeling of expectancy, of anxious, weary waiting. Her mind conjured up before her the vision of what was, perhaps at this very moment, passing downstairs. The half-deserted dining room, the fateful hour, Chauvelin on the watch. Then, precise to the moment, the entrance of a man, he, the Scarlet Pimpernel, the mysterious leader, who to Marguerite had become almost unreal. So strange, so weird was this hidden identity. So weird. She wished she were in the supper room, too, at this moment, watching him as he entered. She knew that her woman's penetration would at once recognize in the stranger's face, whoever he might be. Oh, really? All of this, like, extremely gendered language as well, reveals Baroness Orsi, the author, all of her very gendered, patriarchal, compassionate view. The strong individuality which belongs to a leader of men, to a hero, to the mighty, high-soaring eagle, whose daring wings were becoming entangled in the ferret's trap. Okay. She wished she were in the supper room too. Oh, wait, no, I already read that. Woman-like, see, again. She thought of him with unmixed sadness. The irony of that fate seemed so cruel, which allowed the fearless lion to succumb to the gnawing of a rat. So, again, this bad faith framing, dehumanization, talking about Chauvelin, someone who is invested in revolution and liberation for the common people of France, the majority of the people living in France, that he's being compared to a rat, as opposed to the Scarlet Pimpernel, an aristocrat who doesn't have to work for money and benefits from oppression, him being compared to a lion. Ah, had Armand's life not been at stake... ... Faith, your ladyship must have thought me very remiss, said a voice suddenly close to her elbow. Who is this? I don't know what voice to do. I had a deal of difficulty in delivering your message, for I could not find Blakeney anywhere at first. Oh, okay, this is someone new. Marguerite had forgotten all about her husband and her message to him. His very name, as spoken by Lord Fancourt, sounded strange and unfamiliar to her. So completely had she in the last 5 minutes lived her old life in the Rue de Richelieu, again with Armand always near her to love and protect her, to guard her from the many subtle intrigues which were forever raging in Paris in those days. Okay, I think we did have we did have an introduction to him. I'm trying to remember his voice. "I did find him at last," continued Lord Fancourt, "and gave him your message. He said that he would give orders at once for the horses to be put to." "Ah," she said, still very absently. "You found my husband, and gave him my message?" "Yes, he was in the dining room fast asleep. I could not manage to wake him up at first." "Thank you very much," she said mechanically, trying to collect her thoughts. "Will your ladyship honor me with the contredanse until your coach is ready?" asked Lord Fancourt. "No, I thank you, my lord, but you will forgive me. I really am too tired, and the heat in the ballroom has become oppressive." Yeah, because you know what oppression means. "The conservatory is deliciously cool. Let me take you there, and then get you something. You seem ailing, Lady Blakeney." "I am only very tired," she repeated wearily, as she allowed Lord Fancourt to lead her, where subdued lights and green plants lent coolness to the air. He got her a chair into which she sank. This long interval of waiting was intolerable. Why did not Chauvelin come and tell her the result of his watch? Lord Fancourt was very attentive. She scarcely heard what he said, and suddenly startled him by asking abruptly, "Lord Fancourt, did you perceive who was in the dining room just now besides Sir Percy Blakeney?" "Only the agent of the French government, Monsieur Chauvelin, equally fast asleep in another corner," he said. "Why does your ladyship ask?" "I know not. Did you notice the time when you were there?" "It must have been about 5 or 10 minutes past 1. I wonder what your ladyship is thinking about," he added, for, evidently, the fair lady's thoughts were very far away, and she had not been listening to his intellectual conversation. But indeed, her thoughts were not very far away, only one story below, in this same house, in the dining room where sat Chauvelin, still on the watch. Had he failed? For one instant, that possibility rose before her as a hope. The hope that the Scarlet Pimpernel had been warned by Sir Andrew, and that Chauvelin's trap had failed to catch his bird. But that hope soon gave way to fear. Had he failed? But then, Armand. Lord Fancourt had given up talking since he found that he had no listener. He wanted an opportunity for slipping away, for sitting opposite to a lady, however fair, who is evidently not heeding the most vigorous efforts made for her entertainment, is not exhilarating, even to a cabinet minister. It's like, "Fine, you aren't going to listen to me. I'm leaving." "Shall I find out if your ladyship's coach is ready?" he said at last, tentatively. "Oh, thank you. Thank you, if you would be so kind. I fear I am but sorry company. I am really tired, and perhaps would be best alone." She had been longing to be rid of him, for she hoped that, like the fox he so resembled, Chauvelin would be prowling round, thinking to find her alone. But Lord Fancourt went, and still Chauvelin did not come. Oh, what had happened? She felt Armand's fate trembling in the balance. She feared, now with a deadly fear, that Chauvelin had failed, and that the mysterious Scarlet Pimpernel had proved elusive once more. Then she knew that she need hope for no pity, no mercy from him. He had pronounced his either-or, and nothing else would content him. He was very spiteful, and would affect the belief that she had willfully misled him, and having failed to trap the eagle once again, his revengeful mind would be content with the humble prey, Armand. He's using the leverage that he needs to get intel to help with the revolution. Yet she had done her best, had strained every nerve for Armand's sake. She could not bear to think that all had failed. She could not sit still. She wanted to go and hear the worst at once. She wondered even that Chauvelin had not come yet, to vent his wrath and satire upon her. Lord Grenville himself came presently to tell her that her coach was ready, and that Sir Percy was already waiting for her, ribbons in hand. Marguerite said farewell to her distinguished host. Many of her friends stopped her as she crossed the rooms to talk to her, and exchanged pleasant au revoir. The minister only took final leave of the beautiful Lady Blakeney on the top of the stairs. Below on the landing, a veritable army of gallant gentlemen were waiting to bid goodbye to the Queen of Beauty and Fashion. Okay. Whilst outside, under the massive portico, Sir Percy's magnificent bays were impatiently pawing the ground. At the top of the stairs, just after she had taken final leave of her host, she suddenly saw Chauvelin. He was coming up the stairs slowly and rubbing his thin hands very softly together. Again, just constantly portraying him as this cartoonish villain. There was a curious look on his mobile face, partly amused and wholly puzzled. And as his keen eyes met Marguerite's, they became strangely sarcastic. Monsieur Chauvelin, she said as he stopped on the top of the stairs, bowing elaborately before her. My coach is outside. May I claim your arm? As gallant as ever, he offered his arm and led her downstairs. The crowd was very great. Some of the minister's guests were departing. Others were leaning against the banisters, watching the throng as it filed up and down the wide staircase. Chauvelin, she said at last, desperately, I must know what has happened. What has happened, dear lady? He said with affected surprise. Where? When? Because he understands how to be discreet. You are torturing me, Chauvelin. I have helped you tonight. Surely I have the right to know. What happened in the dining room at 1 o'clock just now? She spoke in a whisper, trusting that in the general hubbub of the crowd, her words would remain unheeded by all, save the man at her side. Quiet and peace reigned supreme, fair lady. At that hour I was asleep in the corner of one sofa, and Sir Percy Blakeney in another. Nobody came into the room at all? Nobody. Then we have failed, you and I? Yes, we have failed. Perhaps, ... But Armand, she pleaded. Armand Saint-Just's chances hang on a thread. Pray heaven, dear lady, that thread may not snap. Because he also is like, were you up to some trickery? He is justified in thinking that and still holding his leverage. Chauvelin, I worked for you, sincerely, earnestly. Remember. I remember my promise, he said quietly. The day that the Scarlet Pimpernel and I meet on French soil, Saint-Just will be in the arms of his charming sister. Which means that a brave man's blood will be on my hands, she said with a shudder. Brave. His blood, or that of your brother. Surely at the present moment you must hope, as I do, that the enigmatical Scarlet Pimpernel will start for Calais today. I am only conscious of one hope, citoyen, and that is that Satan, your master... Jesus. That is dramatic. Will have need of you elsewhere before the sun rises today. You flatter me, citoyen. She had detained him for a while, midway down the stairs, trying to get at the thoughts which lay beyond that thin, fox-like mask. But Chauvelin remained urbane, sarcastic, mysterious. Not a line betrayed to the poor, anxious woman whether she need fear of whether she dared to hope. Downstairs on the landing, she was soon surrounded. Lady Blakeney never stepped from any house into her coach without an escort of fluttering human moths around the dazzling light of her beauty. Oh my god. You can tell that, like, the Baroness is like, oh, she's the ideal. All men are wanting to be around her. She's the most beautiful. She's the wittiest. She's the most fashionable. Like, okay, you're laying it on pretty thick. But before she finally turned away from Chauvelin, she held out a tiny hand to him with that pretty gesture of childish appeal which was so essentially her own. Again, the common theme of Marguerite being compared to a child, this infantilization that she is constantly undergoing through the lens of Baroness Orsi. Give me some hope, my little Chauvelin, she pleaded. With perfect gallantry, he bowed over that tiny hand, which looked so dainty and white. See, colonizer behavior, talking about whiteness as proximity to purity. Through the delicately transparent black lace mitten, and kissing the tips of the rosy fingers. "Pray heaven that the thread may not snap," he repeated with his enigmatic smile. And stepping aside, he allowed the moths to flutter more closely round the candle, and the brilliant throng of the jeunesse dorée, eagerly attentive, that's like the young adorers, eagerly attentive to Lady Blakeney's every movement, hid the keen, fox-like face from her view. Okay. I need to end a little bit earlier today. It's a shorter stream today, but tomorrow I'm thinking about getting started around 1:30 so that we can go over more of an Indigenous perspective of revolutionaries. Geronimo wanted to talk about Sitting Bull. Also getting more historical context for the French Revolution, and then get into Culture Corner. I have some very exciting updates for Culture Corner. I have a friend who is an amazing photographer that I would like to show some of his work and talk about some of his inspiration, historical photographers. So we'll get into that, get into some music and art that I have been excited about lately. So, yeah. That's going to be it for me today. Thank you for being here. It was good chatting with you. I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, and I will see you soon. Okay, bye.